this video will help explain how the people of Rome helped themselves and us too with their inventions and innovations. The objectives are to analyze Roman art and architecture to find out about life in the Roman Empire. We're going to talk about the Circus Maximus, a Colosseum, atrium, aqueducts. We're also going to talk about the Aeneid, which is the most significant Roman epic poem by Virgil. The Aeneid was a poem about a man named Aeneas and some people who were escaping from Troy after the Greeks had destroyed their town. They sailed to Italy, but they have a very hard time with it. This is considered one of the greatest achievements of the Roman literature. The Romans tried to find ways to improve their lives. They invented new ways of using medicine. They had calendars, better farming methods. They had a practical approach to their engineering. They were ones who made things stronger by using cement and layered the roads with cement, and they made arches. The arches that they invented were able to support heavier weight. They were able to build aqueducts that bring water from the city or the mountains down to the cities, and they combined these arches to form a vault, which also helps support roofs in a building. Now, the Roman architecture was built from the Greek design, but they got better at it, and they made these bigger structures. They were the first to use these arches in this way. They found that if they used cement and a keystone, which is right at the top of the arch to keep the arches from falling in, they could build stronger, larger structures. Here you can see that they built aqueducts to supply the water to the city. You can see the water would flow along this edge down here in the middle, and these were able to span long areas. This is much like an irrigation system for modern farming. You can see here that they use simple machines to help build large structures. The human-powered crane helped lift heavy blocks of cement. They used scaffolding to get the workers up where they needed to be, and they used architectural elements to help preserve the bridges and aqueducts from water damage. You can see here that they have this ledge here that would help the water stay in this area here. This is an example of a modern day apartment building. They were called insulas. Most of these structures were built in the cities to house regular or lower middle class or poor people. The lower ground area here were filled with shops and businesses because they were at street level. The upper floors is where the living space was designed. The upper floors were where the people lived, up here like an apartment building is now. These buildings were usually named for the owner of the building. The very rich and upper class of people lived in single family houses that much looked like this. They were very big and sprawling. They were called domus. These houses sometimes had a large space in the middle called an atrium. This is where you could find gardens, a pool, a fountain. The atrium is usually where the Romans would have parties or just hang out with their family. This is a massive structure called, it's a temple, and it was made of concrete. It's still standing. Okay, it's one of the ancient Roman structures that are still standing today. It's about 16 miles east of Rome. It is a temple within a sanctuary, and it is it's just a massive structure. This is the Pantheon. This is a Roman temple to all the gods. You can see that they used a dome structure here. These are a series of vaults. Or, well, it's called a vault, but it's a series of arches that were all put together to make this big sprawling dome. Okay, it reveals the full potential of concrete, both as a building material and as a means of shaping the architecture. The light in the center, comes through this hole called the oculus. Here's a cutout view of the Parthenon, and you can see how big these structures are. You see the Greek columns here, and then the dome, which was combined to make the Parthenon. The Thomas Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. is built with a dome, much like the Parthenon. There are also many structures in the world that use these domes. The round arch and the vault allowed Romans to construct larger buildings than earlier societies. The Capitol building in Washington, D.C. also has a dome, much like this. The Romans enjoyed entertainment and fun in their lives. They created places where they could gather and have activities that would entertain them. Public baths were a place for entertainment. They are much like modern-day gyms. They had steam rooms, they had pools, they were able to have meeting rooms. This is where the Romans would socialize. They also had places that they made large structures that were able to hold many people. And in these places like the Circus Maximus or the Colosseum, they had gladiator races, contests, chariot races, circuses, and plays. The Forum, the Circus Maximus, and the Colosseum were some of these kinds of structures. Now they got kind of bloody. They liked the amphitheaters where the wild animals battled each other, and they battled professional fighters. So they liked bloody contests. The Roman baths were a recreation center for the Roman cities, much like YMCA's. They could serve hundreds of thousands of people. Here, the Circus Maximus is a U-shaped structure, much like a racetrack. This is where the empire's first chariot races competed against each other. And then the Colosseum is an amphitheater used for the gladiator competitions and other public events. It was able to seat 87,000 people. So they made these, see how they have the arches here? It was made out of cut stone and concrete. You can see here that the wealthy people, the people that had a lot of money and the powerful citizens, got to sit down right at field level. And then ordinary citizens took up the next couple of tiers, but then the slaves were all stuck up here. Okay, so ordinary citizens, they sat kind of in the middle. Powerful people sat right down front. Here you can see this is a mosaic of some of the way that the gladiator tournaments were held. They would have gladiator against gladiator, gladiator against the beast, and the beast versus the beast. So, the Romans were also known for their contribution of art, literature, and language. Some of the greatest authors were like Virgil and Ovid. We talked about the Aeneid. We also talked about how they developed the Latin. They wrote in Latin, but they also the Romantic languages came from the Latin, like Spanish, French, and Italian. The artists also were known for their mosaic paintings and statues, but a lot of the paintings did not survive because most of the Roman paintings that were hung were in the houses of Pompeii, and they were all destroyed by Mount Vesuvius. So there's not very many of them that survived. So, can you identify these structures? What's an aqueduct? What's an amphitheater? What's a temple? Alright, we're going to finish our video with watching a movie. This is by Mr. Nicky, and he sums up the Roman Empire very well.
Romulus, Remus, Romulus, Remus, Romulus, Remus, Romulus, Remus. I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana.
Now, walk into the forum through the arch made of marble rock. Grand Uncle Caesar joined up with Cleopatra. If he hadn't died on the Ides, he'd see me and he'd say,
Man, that's how I beat Pompey.
armies are obeying me, goods are moving really free, government's efficient, and his Pax, Latin word for peace. No more of these Punic wars fighting over Sicily. Hannibal crossed the Alps, still Carthage couldn't beat.
And Hannibal had elephants.
We were a republic, a government run by elected ones who we call representatives. The branch is called the Senate, is controlled by nobles called patricians, but the poor were citizens and workers were called plebeians who chose the citizens' assembly.
My name's on the calendar. My name's on the calendar.
No, for real, look at August. My name's on the calendar. We got concrete to build arch bridges. We got bats where you read and talk business. Build a coliseum, fill the coliseum. Get some gladiators, let the lions eat them. You know, the Roman Empire's growing. Got to keep the conquered people from revolting. All of them should know the laws, plebeians and slaves. We'll see them in the forum and say,
They're the 12 tables. I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana. I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana.
7 hills help protect us from invasion. Fertile farmlands in the plains of Latium. Volcanoes, they sometimes erupt like Mount Vesuvius. Pompeii was sad, but their soil's rich. The Italian peninsula's on Mediterranean trade routes. You see that it's shaped like a boot. My non-citizen soldiers still defend us. Every 5 years we count the people with the census. Your servants, your slaves, your brothers, your babies. We're gonna take a census, so get ready, cause we're counting up the numbers. We do it every 5 years, counting up the numbers. So register, because we're counting up the numbers. People are like, oh, you're adopted by Caesar. I'm like, careful, you're talking to an emperor. Caesar was no emperor, he got murdered by senators. At most he was a dictator with only a dictatorship. He gave land to his soldiers to appease them. He had to hand free grain to his citizens. Yeah, he governed Gaul. He crossed the Rubicon to start a civil war, but I've defeated generals. Why'd he make citizens of those not born in Rome? Maybe he was scared there'd be a plebeian revolt. Plebeian revolt. Hey, Caesar, were you reading Livy's books too much? Yeah.
I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana. I wear a laurel and robe. It's called the toga, though. I build those Roman roads, and your taxes pay for those. Bad news for you consuls, who made new laws for Rome. All those I can veto, the Republic stays our throne. I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana.
Is that a bed sheet you're wearing?